Welcome back to Just Figuring It Out. We've got a great episode today. We're going to do some cool stuff. I'm super excited to catch up. I got the guys here. I got Ian. I got Alex. Fellas, happy Friday, July 10th. It's been a busy week over here at CEO Finance Academy. How are you guys doing?
Fantastic. Happy Friday.
I'm just vicariously enjoying Ian's pool background. For those who can't see, it just looks glorious.
It
I'm
really
here
does.
because there's drilling happening and electricians happening, so we're outside today. Yeah.
Unfortunately, they're not drilling for oil and finding a huge oil deposit. That would be
You
amazing.
know,
But you never know. You never know. I'm really excited. I got a cool thing for us that we're going to do here a little bit. Kind of would you or wouldn't you in terms of businesses that we might get into or buy or consider starting. But before we do that, I just want to catch up what's been new. We've had some things come up this week that kind of been reoccurring over the years, but in particular, some things rear their heads at times. So I was going to toss to you, Alex, 'cause we had a couple of things that have been coming up this week that just seem like happening to a lot of folks and popping up, which is the topic of give me my money. And I'm going to hand over to you of kind of what you've been seeing.
Man, so we could go super deep on stories, which I won't. But short version is we're working with a bunch of clients and talked with a bunch of people over the last week or two where they're all having the same problem where they've acquired the customer, they've done the bidding, or put out their offer to people. People accept. They go do the work for said people. They pay all their guys and they pay all their materials and they pay all their overhead. But guess what? The client doesn't pay them, and it's this like, man, it's like you're a football player and you've been sprinting down the sideline and you get to the 2-yard line and like everything else has been done right, but we can't get across the line. And it's so frustrating for business owners. So that whole like, man, I got a bunch of people that owe me a bunch of money. And I always ask for business owners that are in a like stretched financial situation and they're dealing with that where they look at their AR, their accounts receivable, and it's like, man, look at all this money that's in the 60 plus bucket of people who owe me and are months late. It's like, if you had that money in your account right now, how would you feel about financials? And everyone, like without hesitation, like, oh, it'd be so much easier. Like, it'd be amazing. It'd be just fine. And so there's this like, dude, this kind of really sucks that like a bunch of people owe you money. And then it's this like chain reaction of now because you're not getting paid, now you start stretching terms on everyone else. And now you're the person making other people frustrated. And you're trying to juggle this like, crap, now I am literally playing the bank. Like I am not a business owner, I'm a bank owner. And I'm literally just like trying to get money from some people so that I can pay the other people. And then I'm robbing Peter to pay Paul and I get into this crappy cycle. And now I need ugly debt that we all know is not so fun. And you're like, I need to either max out a line of credit or get some crappy merchant cash advance loan. And there's just this big stress around it. We're like, if we were to rewind the clock 6 months, be like, hey, what could you do to avoid not getting paid by these bigger accounts or these clients? It's really easy to look back and be like, I should do this and this. It's like, okay, cool. Well, what do we do now? And so that we can nerd on that a little bit today as we get into things. But that experience of a bunch of people owe me money, and if I had that money in my account right now, I'd be totally fine, is happening to a lot of business owners right now.
Mhm. Yeah. Wonder if it's like, do we see this as seasonal? Yeah, I'm curious for you guys. Do you feel like it's a seasonal thing or is it just kind of more business dependent?
I'll I'll say in the construction realm and like trades businesses, it does tend to be a little bit more seasonal where it's like, hey, we're getting into spring and we're all building stuff out now. And there's just a lot more activity happening in certain, depending on the area and stuff. There's maybe more like building activity going on if you're in the construction world. And so this time of year will tend to be a spot where a lot of work has been done early in the spring. And now it's like, I built for it and I'm not quite getting paid for it. So yeah, this like mid to late summer period is a time when I start to see it a little bit more. I think there's like broadly, a lot of it's just connected to like, hey, interest rates are way higher right now than they were a couple of years ago. So there's not as much of a seasonal as like a global trend right now. Of just like, hey, because money's more expensive, it's harder for everyone to make money move around easier. And so that has affected it over the last couple of years for sure. It's got a lot more pronounced because of that.
I was super curious too for you guys and Ian. Maybe I'll toss this one to you. Of like, I think we have a lot of owners who are clients, and I think Alex, back to when we started, we had a rough collections process, right? It was like, hey, here's what we do. When we send the email if someone hasn't paid on certain time or if a payment fails or declines. But I look back and I think so many owners are just sort of like, we do what we do. I'm kind of curious, Ian, maybe Alex too, of like, what are you guys seeing that has been, what have we had to do in terms of helping clients get a little more, we'll just say, serious about their processes, or how we can improve or the odds that they're actually going to get the money and get the money on time?
Yeah, that's a great one. I similar to what you were talking about before, preventative is always the best. In other words, how much can you get down? How much can you get at the time of service or before service is huge. I see a lot of people will say, well, industry standard, or like my competitors do this other thing. And it's that realization of, is that truly what's required? Or did you just ask? Like, have you asked the vendor, asked the person, hey, I need 50% down, or I need this particular thing for the type of work we do. I think people have this belief that they're not going to get a certain project or bid if they ever ask for a certain thing ahead of time. So that's number one. Is it possible? Number two, I think, especially when we see things like construction where there's something like work in progress, or hey, we got to this phase or that phase, we have to mark this completion or do this operation thing to like unlock or release the next funds. That's when it gets challenging if they don't have systems or they don't have good documentation processes. We see oftentimes I find it also spirals into, not only I'm going to go get debt to cover this, I'm going to go take on more jobs as quickly as possible. And I'm not paying attention as much to the margins or my profit on those jobs or how I'm bidding. I just need to get work to cover this last one. And then we see the spiral. So I'd say in the to your initial question, like in the beginning, it's more of a, when someone is, feeling that or seeing that, and say it the way you said it, because I answered part of it, but I want
Yeah.
to answer the initial part too.
No, you're good. Just sort of how do we help them think through becoming more like serious about their processes in the sense of, so, for Alex, we got, you guys were us when we started. It was, hey, send an email, or, and then Stripe or whatever had the like auto email if it declines. And we're like, no, that's good. And then we notice, oh, someone might be a habitual of non-payer, or they might even have a card that declines and they're not aware about it. I think in a
Yes.
lot of times these bigger transactions, it's like people are intentionally holding out or withholding. So just curious how we come in, how we look at this, and kind of the way that we help owners with that.
I always
Yeah.
assume ignorance, not malice. So always assume they just, maybe they don't know. Maybe you sent them an email in their inbox with 10,000 other emails. It's remembering, it's kind of similar to marketing and sales and follow up. Like I think we send one message and we're like, oh, they didn't pay me. Versus a lot of these companies are just getting hammered with messages of like this, and they're going to prioritize the one that feels like the biggest urgency. And we have to remember that. So like, be kind, like don't be a jerk, but at the same time, persistence and clarity is actually usually appreciated, because they know I have to get to this today, or I have to have a decision on this week, rather than I sent like a invoice in the mail one time and didn't get a response. Also, remove friction from getting paid is like the number one thing. Don't make it hard for people to pay you money. Make it as simple as humanly, like Paylink. Can you handle this today? Can you handle this right now? I've seen so many businesses. They're like, well, we mail the thing out and we do the thing, and you're just creating all this extra friction and steps for people to pay you. So that's number one. Number two, yes, automate the heck out of email and text sequences, but don't forget the human component of like the relationship, because oftentimes we'll forget. Usually if you just pick up the phone and call a person, they're like, oh my god, I'm so sorry, yeah, let me handle that right now. It's that, I know it sounds funny, but it's that simple. Alex, I'd love your take on
Yeah.
what you've seen as well.
Yeah. I just like, I always see this as there's this kind of totem pole of people that need to get paid, and you don't want to be at the bottom of that. Right. And so, what can I do to raise myself up? And there are a number of things. You mentioned a couple of them that I think are really important. A face to face human relationship is the best way to move to the top of the totem pole without having to resort to all the other tactics that we'll talk about in a sec. Just like when I talk to people and they say, yeah, so and so owes me money. Like, have you ever visited them? Like, do they know your face? Because it is so much easier to say, yeah, we'll pay you, like, we're working on it, to a faceless email versus to a human that is sitting across from you. Look them in the eyes and say, I cannot pay you right now. That is just a way harder thing to do. And so, whatever you can do to physically get in front of them and have an actual relationship is number one. Beyond that, then we get into like tactics, right? It always kills me. I know we're talking about construction a lot here today because that's what I've been focused on a lot. But for example, like agencies, if you bill a client every single month and you make them fill out a payment thing, that is like the lamest way to bill someone. sorry, but like use Stripe or PayPal or anything else. QuickBooks can do it where it will automatically bill the client. Like it, the wildest thing to me that people will still manually bill every single month for services. It's like, dude, if it's on a retainer and you're billing the same amount every month, put it on auto pay. Like, please save yourself. Nobody wants to see and have to pay something every single month. Like it's just so if you're on some sort of recurring payment with people, whether that's like in agency services or maybe you're a healthcare provider and you're packaging things and it's a certain amount every like, yeah, come in and swipe your card every time you come in. Guess what? They're going to think about maybe I don't come in today. And so if we can make it so that they don't have to make a decision every single month, then it's just way easier. So putting things on auto pay as much as humanly possible, whether that's ACH or something that can automatically charge their credit card, ideal. Then if I'm in a business where I can't bill like that, like construction, for example, then I'm looking at what can I do to positively incentivize payment. So things like, for example, when we built our house, our biggest single bill was lumber. And it was sky high. It was right after COVID when everything went crazy. It was our most expensive bill by far, but they were always the very first one to get paid from me because they offered a 2% discount if I paid by the 9th of the month. Like that was it. And so instead of me stretching with them to the end of the month, guess what? I showed up literally the 9th of every month. I never missed it. 2%, it wasn't a huge deal for them. But guess what? A 2% discount is way cheaper than a 12% line of credit that you have to hit in order to cover those gaps. And so we can sit down and look at, well, within our margins, maybe we end up having to raise prices or something. Or even if not, I guarantee you it's cheaper to give someone a 2, 3, 4, 5% discount on paying up front versus having to go get the debt that's covering that. So if you have a line of credit that you know is at 12%, well, guess what? Then I could offer a 5% discount to my customers if that means that I don't have to hold on to that 12% line of credit. And that's a win-win for everyone. And so what can I do to incentivize payment early? Before, they weren't telling me that I had to pay them by the 9th. I got 30-day terms, but if I did pay them early, I got that discount. And so look at your customers or clients who might be open to something like that, where then again, I just move up to the front of the line. So we have human interaction, we have positive things that can incentivize and make stuff easier. And then we have the negative side of let's just call it motivation, where sometimes we need to be a little bit of a bulldog if someone isn't paying us. We've got a contractor right now that as we're looking through their things, they decided that they need to start pre-leaning every project over a certain dollar amount, meaning basically saying, hey, if you don't pay me, then I can put a lien on it very easily. And it makes it so that you can't go close on your loan for this giant construction project. That's a big thing. And so can I pre-lien larger projects? Or if I know I have a specific client that's slow to pay and I'm in the construction or trades realm, can I pre-lien things? There's always this whole like, I can threaten to send you to collections thing. And you can look it up online. There's these forms that you can send or you can get a lawyer to do it for you. But nowadays there's just like literally services that will be like intend to send to collections. And guess what? It makes you move to the front of the line. The other thing is sometimes business owners will have an office manager or someone who's in charge of accounts receivable, but that person may not be as aggressive as they need to be. And it's like, yeah, I sent them an email. It's like, okay, look, if they're 60 days overdue or even 30 days overdue, and I'm sending them an email and checking the box that I checked in with them, that's the most kind of passive way possible to do outreach. We might need to escalate that to someone else in the company who has the demeanor of almost like a salesperson, or maybe the owner themselves who can be a little bit of a bulldog. We had a tire company that was owed hundreds of thousands of dollars from their bigger contracts. And it was right before Christmas. They were stressed the crap out. And they're like, so we sat down and looked at it and they had this $200,000. Like, who's collecting right now? I don't know. Kind of like we send these emails like, no, get your best salesperson, go have them hit the phones relentlessly and give them a commission on anything that they collect. They went and did that and had all 200,000 collected within a week, and they were fine going into the end of the year. So just thinking about what do we need to do systematically to change who's doing the outreach. Maybe as an owner, I need to be the one to hit the phones. If it's super urgent and you're looking at cash flow, like I can't make payroll this weekend, then you, the owner, might need to go make the rounds and like actually visit each of these places, give them a call and say, hey, I'm coming by to pick up the check today. Would 2 or 3 o'clock work better? Don't wait for a check in the mail. Go physically pick it up and deposit it. When at all possible, if someone can be on ACH, we like ACH better than having to pick up a check because check in the mail means that it might get here next week. It might not. So just doing everything that we can to actually lower friction, increase the human to human component, make it easier to pay. And in cases where we need to, make it harder not to pay so that we can get the checks collected.
I, I love the breakdown. I think it's really fascinating. It's the psychology of it of like, hey, if you were to say, hey, you got 200 grand out there, like, what I got to do to go get it? But yet, as humans, and I think as business owners, there's these relationships that we've built with vendors that we've got, and you're kind of sitting there. And so, Ian, as our resident sort of behavioral psychologist, on the team,
Let's go.
just kind of curious, like, obviously it's like when you hear it like that from Alex, right? Like, and we do this as a company, it's like, yes, duh, we need to do that. We need to have someone there. But yet we often find it's still hard for owners to pull the trigger on that, to actually put that motion into play. How do you talk through that with someone who's maybe avoiding that? Or when it's like, I'm willing to go take out a line of credit to rob Peter to pay Paul just because I'm afraid to pick up the phone and call that person and do that. Like, how do we, because this is a real thing that comes up a lot for our clients. Alex, you've been working through this a lot. How do we talk through that? Because, we could just give them an SOP, do this, and we know a good chunk will be like 2 months later, hey, I'm in the same spot. How do we actually help them sort of work through that, I guess, internal friction?
Yeah, I think it stems a lot from there's a couple things I noticed. One, money beliefs around like it's icky to ask for money. So it's similar to the same owner who might have struggled with sales. But with sales, they've made the connection of like, I'm giving you this valuable thing and you're giving me money for it. And we came to an agreement. With collections, this is the other thing. And Alex, when you were talking, it made me think of this. What often happens, especially in construction or in healthcare with like insurance changes, the owner or someone on the team did not communicate when something changed. And then it's this feeling of like, I have to eat it or take on all of the burden. Or if I did do my side of the thing and they didn't do theirs, well, because it's been a certain amount of time since I reached out, it's like that thing when you don't respond to an email for a week and then 2 weeks and then 3, it's like harder every day that goes by because you feel like it's such a long time ago.
You
So
feel like the
number
jerk that's
one,
like, oh, I didn't
yeah,
reply right away. Yeah.
yeah, like, oops, and then a lot of those owners, because let's be honest, a lot of them internalize more caregivers. I got to take care of my people, got to take care of everybody. It's a bit of a people pleaser. I don't want anyone to be upset with me. That's a big one of the behavioral psychology piece of I don't want my reputation to be tarnished. And I think if someone's upset with me, they're gonna like go post something or do something because as owners, you've probably had that happen. Thanks, Yelp. But it's like I think it's one of those pieces where the internal thing, it's just another skill set. If you can frame it back to it's just another skill set, and how would I kindly hold the mirror or kindly ask this person? Because the other thing is when we don't go and do that, we're saying, I don't think this person is capable of paying me. I don't think they can handle that. So we're disempowering them by not doing what we said we would do. So from that lens, that's usually how I flip the frame because now we're saying, yeah, you're not, we're like putting them below us and saying like, you probably couldn't handle it or whatever else. Instead of saying, hey, I believe they can do it. And to Alex's point, if you can show up in person or on the phone or something, and then they might say something like, well, Ian, I can't pay the 40 grand today. It's like, oh, I hear you. It seems like, you're going through a crunch too. What can you handle today? And it's just those simple shifts of like, people just don't want to ask the open-ended question or the simple question of that's a pretty easy answer. And are they going to say zero while they're like operating a full business? Probably not. And it's just saying like, I'm a human, you're a human. I'd love to continue our relationship and I want it to like be great. So I think for me, there's a way to do it with kindness and compassion. But usually the reason we don't is because there's usually internal guilt and shame around money and asking for money. It comes back to that every single darn time. I know it does for me, like where you start to think like, what are all the ways I could have like done this better? And somehow like I probably missed the boat instead of looking and going, hey, no, like they owe us 10 grand. Yes, we did let it go longer than we probably would have liked, but it's still the same thing. I think we change the score and the measure when time goes by. I think that's part of the problem, if that makes sense. I know for me that was, I think of the collections. Also, insurance, great example for healthcare. We got the thing back 3 weeks later and they denied all of the things. And we don't want to be the bearer of that news. So a lot of times we don't want to be the bearer of the news. So once we flip it to, I'm just giving them clarity so they can make a plan and then we can be in alignment again. And I think they can handle it and they'll figure it out. We're saying like, oh no, it's the opposite. But I'd love your guys' take on how it's felt For me, my personal stuff has been more in the healthcare realm because owning the clinic. So it would be like, yeah, hey, your insurance company, denied these 4 past visits, but it would also be mindful of like, let's not do 10 more visits and not tell them. It's like, let's make sure we tell them right away what's happening so we can figure out how to resolve that and what the new thing looks like going forward. And a lot of it, honestly, Will, is training people on how to have those reset the expectation conversations. That's 99% of it. And it's just Alex said it, it's the same thing in sales. It's the same thing. You're just literally going, let's come to an agreement and figure out how we can like move forward together. That's it.
So
That's a
true.
lot.
No, but it's the real stuff. Like this is the stuff that people don't see on the outside unless you're living it. Of doing that, and I think there's probably a whole discussion we could have too on like whoever you do assign that task to, how much do you tell them in terms of, hey, there's 200 grand out there. It's a make or break for the company. Do you pass that weight on to someone? Do you not? Right. As the owner, that's a big decision too of like, we don't get this. Here's what people's Christmases might look like, for example, Alex, in that case, like, do we not do that? Cause a big part of that is giving someone context for the urgency of why we need to do this. So yeah, we could get into that in a different stuff. I think this has been great. I think obviously there's probably 8-hour seminars on perfect collections processes that someone could go through. But for me, a big thing with podcasts is what's real, what's coming up, what are we seeing, what are things that we're living. And this week, I know in particular, it come up multiple times of, just yeah, I made a little joke of like, should we start like a construction mafia? We'll just go around and, go do collections and make people pay. And yeah, it has real impacts. So Alex, anything else on that? Otherwise, I'm going to move us to our
Two
next.
two two last
Yep.
thoughts.
Yep.
The more human side of this, just recognizing what's going on for the person on the other side of the table here. And Ian, you pointed this out really well. Sometimes they just don't know, right? Where it's like, oh, literally, I didn't know that my card was tapped out, or I forgot that I changed my card number, right? And so approaching it first as if they didn't know, right? And with kindness to like let them, oh hey, and it's not like if that happens to me, if I'm a business owner and I have a card fail for someone, if someone reaches out to kindly let me know, like, hey, wanted to let you know this card got declined. Wondered if we needed to change out a card or something. I'm going to immediately feel like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Let me go move heaven and earth to get you paid today. Right. And I know not everyone might have that, but just like taking the kind approach first, like, oh, they might not know. And then if they don't, if they do know, well, then something else is going on where they're going through a really tough cash crunch. And so also approaching that from a kindness and understanding view, while also not just completely, being a pushover, so to speak. Like you can't let people walk all over you either, but like being kind, right? At the end of the day. And this is why I think it goes back to like, what kind of human to human relationship do you have? I know it's business to business, but guess what? The business is not a thing. It's just a group of humans. And so really it's just what human communication, what human relationships. And yes, there's systems and processes that just avoid having to do human to human connection, but sometimes that just gets in the way. So it's just important to remember that side of it in addition to the systems and always having things ready, because that impacts things, in my opinion, far more than the systems themselves.
And also just be kind to yourself as well. It's the whole, I think I love what you just said there, because I think what can happen is we then beat ourselves up as owners and how did I miss this and why did I do that? And it's great. Here's a learning experience. Is there even anything I can shift, or is that an anomaly, or is there something I can do now in my process? And every time you learn and you iterate, and then all of a sudden, great. Now I don't have to jump into that. Alex, go.
No. Keep going. Finish thoughts.
No, that was it. It was really just be kind to
Mhm.
yourself about it. You'll learn. And if you pay attention to this and pay attention to the connection, and when you feel disconnected or connected with other people, you'll start to see, I can usually zoom out and go back and find the point where it started. It's that simple. And then you find that point and you go, okay. And once again, it's not always like 100% you, but it's saying part of it was maybe me not holding a mirror, or not jumping in or doing something, or someone on the team. Part of it was them. So it's remembering, it's like two to tango every single time. And if we get better with knowing, hey, was there something I could have communicated differently? Or is there something I missed? Or it could just be like, no one could have predicted this. It is what it is. And just being kind to yourself in those moments. Cause I know for me personally, my tendency is to zoom out and look back and be like, how could I have somehow like prevented this and been better? And I never want it to happen again. Instead of just being open to it's going to happen again. And how am I just okay with that? And how is the rest of my business okay when this does happen again? That's a bigger one too. Bigger conversation.
That brought up for me the concept of flexibility in this, where like stuff's going to happen and you can learn from it. And it's okay to change things moving forward. And so I think it's useful to pause and do ask to like, yeah, what did happen? And is there something that needs to change? Like I can change, my business can change. That's okay. And then two, it's really interesting to me that people will only look at examples from their industry of how other people do things and really ignore how other industries do stuff. And like, for example, if we ran our company like a lot of agencies or something, we would be billing hourly for fractional CFO services and try to like micro stack all these extra value adds that we could charge for. Like, that's a terrible model. And we just
Healthcare
decided like
insurance. Healthcare insurance. Sorry, I had a cough.
trigger words. But like for us, we decided as a company, well, we're going to charge in a different way where our pricing is very clear. We charge upfront at the beginning of the month for services and we auto bill. And then that takes out the whole like that side of our business is pretty much just handled. And like one time there was a pool guy who ran a pool cleaning and like maintenance business and they would collect a credit card ahead of time before the scheduled appointment and then they would do the thing and then they would bill the customer. And like this was all part of their thing. And he didn't have anyone owe him money on that, which was just like unheard of in his industry. It's like, well, just because I did it this way, I saw this industry doing this thing and I was like, I could do that too. And that was part of their thing. And so just looking at, hey, is there maybe a different way to do this than everyone else in my industry? And guess what? You can just tell clients, this is how we do it. And this is why. And it's simpler for you and for us. And therefore we don't have to charge you as much. Like, sweet. And so being flexible enough to look outside, yes, look inside of yourself and see what you could do better, but also like, what other examples are there? And guess what? There's this beautiful thing called AI now that you can go chat with and be like, hey, how do other industries handle this problem? Like, talk to me about that. Or you can talk to a human that like actually has some experience doing this and how to navigate it too. But there's lots of options. And I think sometimes we close ourselves down to that and we just get narrowed in on like, this is how it's always been done.
I I think as you were talking about that, Alex, too, is super important about the human side of stuff. And I do think, there's the old saying, and I think someone in sales is who I first heard it from, but like never email someone that you can text, never text someone that you can call, never call someone that you can meet in person, right? If it's something that's urgent and important that you have to say, collections probably work just as well going through that process too. So I want to move on. We're going to go. So from here, we're going to jump into a little fun game that I've been watching a lot of YouTube creators and they do like S tier, A tier, B tier stuff. And we're going to do our own little variation. We're not going to do S tier, A tier, B tier, but we're going to go into would you or wouldn't you in terms of either buy or start this business. I don't know if we should do, maybe we'll do buy into rather than start, just because I think that's probably more realistic where like we don't have to know knowledge, industry knowledge, just like, hey, would you be an investor in this? And I tried to pick 6 industries that we either have direct client relationships with, we've actually run, or we're very, very familiar with, that we know sort of the ins and outs. Not going to be experts here, so there's just obviously take on this of what we think. If yes, if you would invest this, what would you need to be true from a profitability, what would you need to be true for you to want to invest in this? If not, why not? Right. So we're not going to go into like, you're going to have 9 million data points, right? Just in general of what we've seen, we've looked into dozens and dozens of these types of businesses to be able to see. So we're going to talk in generalities. So just so we're clear, obviously there's great versions of every industry. There's obviously not so great. This is just like, hey, you've only got, I'll just say 500 grand that you can put in one time. Would you consider moving into this industry or not? So
Hey, Will, could I ask a question here?
yeah, please.
Do we get to factor in like, yes, I would actually enjoy owning that
Yeah,
business? Or are we
absolutely.
only looking like financially and operationally? Like,
No, so let's go this. You would actually be buying in to help take over the company as potentially an operator as well. We're going to ignore the fact that you might not have millions of, you don't have years and years and years of experience in this industry, right? Just like a normal, someone goes out there and like, hey, I got a buying opportunity. I was actually meeting with a guy yesterday who comes from Silicon Valley that just invested in a construction company in the Midwest. And was like, yeah, man, I don't know anything about it other than it just looked like a great opportunity. And I was like, oh, that's really cool. So we'll go from that point of view. And this is just totally just from what we've seen from the behind the curtains of, a group of us who've looked inside the finances of a lot of these industries. So the very first one we're going to start with is an accounting firm. So one that we do not, in this, I'm going to go more bookkeeping and accounting, maybe not fractional CFO professional services, but actual bookkeeping and accounting. Ian, I'm going to toss to you because we have some context here. We do some bookkeeping, we do some of this. So just a reminder, would you invest into one of these firms? So in this case, an accounting firm, would you consider investing into it where you're going to have to take over sort of an operator as well? If yes, what would the conditions need to be or things that you would do it for? If no, why not? And it could be as simple as I absolutely hate that service.
This reminds me of like Love, Marry, Kill.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
so for me, an accounting bookkeeping business, I'm going to look actually in most of these businesses, what's the team like? That's just because I gravitate towards connection with people. And that's how I tend to assess. So like leadership and team. I tend to assess where a business is going when I look at that and I see the culture, because especially at smaller levels, it tends to be the hardest thing is hiring and retaining good team members. So if they have a solid team and I'll look at retention. I just look at retention all of the time in these businesses, because if they have great retention set up already, it's like awesome. You don't have to go ham on getting tons and tons of new clients to cover it, but also, you've built relationships, hopefully. If someone's staying with you for 1, 2, 3, 5, 10 years. Now, I'm obviously going to look at like, are they paying like $50 a month for, and that's why they've stayed so long. So we're going to look at some numbers and things. But to me, I tend to look at it as what are my skill sets and what am I actually bringing to the table that those particular skills can just line up. So for an accounting and bookkeeping business, I'm going to go in and look. Usually let's being blunt, it's the humaning that they struggle with.
Yep.
In other words, usually it's the struggle of the relationship. They're great with numbers, great with analytics. They're great technicians, similar to legal, but they struggle with the peopling. So I'm like, ooh, I like helping people. So I personally enjoy that. And if I would see a trajectory where there's a massive gap there where I'm like, once you put these 2 or 3 things into place, it's just going to go to the moon. I can usually look at a business structurally or operationally and know they haven't even done these one to 3 things. Great example, Will, you've probably seen this, like none of them have actually like reached out to follow up with like past clients or something like that. There's these little things that you can see right away. You go, oh my gosh, you have a list of like 10,000 people that you've like served well and you just forgot to check in with them. It's things like that I look at, like client list, retention, long-winded way of saying it's the people for me and connection.
Yeah. Maybe another way to look at it, so outside of the business itself, how do you feel about the industry and where it's going in terms of solid investment, not solid
Yep.
investment? Yeah.
I think the ones that are focusing on the relationships are going to be a solid investment, and focusing on AI and not trying to attach. This is a personal belief. I think a lot of knowledge and effort, especially around analytics and finance, is going to be commoditized. It's going to go very low. I think the biggest value is going to be the connection and the relationship, that for me personally. So yeah, I think anything that is repeatable, it's like and I'm kind of okay with that. I personally just think it's awesome. I hope it leads to us connecting more as human beings and like being like, hey, cool, Alex. So what do you want? Because like all the numbers are done. Like, what do you want? What do you want to do? That's where I enjoy the conversation, anyways.
Yeah. So we got a potential yes on that one. We got a potential, obviously depending, but potential yes. Not a hard no is what I'm getting from that, which
Yep.
is cool. Alex,
Yes.
what are your thoughts?
If they do taxes, hard no. Like tax prep, hard no.
Same girl.
It's such a terrible, like it's such a hard business model. Like, hey, you can do things for 4 months of the year and the rest of the time, and people want to not pay you very much for that service. And the rest of the year, you have to figure out something else. So yeah, if taxes, no. And like as an industry, I think it's hard right now going into, if I'm only doing bookkeeping, I just think that from a pricing standpoint is going to plummet over the next couple of years, where AI is just so good, like Ian said it, like especially what they call deterministic things where like 1 + 1 = 2. Yes, AI excels at that greatly, which is like bookkeeping to a T. What it can't do well is the human connection side of things, where like, yes, I can ask a question to this human and I trust what it's saying back. AI is not there quite yet, but it will very likely get there. So for me, unless there's like, frankly, higher monthly retainer service like fractional CFO services, in and of itself, I don't think that I would buy into an accounting firm right now. So it would have to be accounting plus CFO, which, hey, this is, as we're expanding bookkeeping services, like I'll just be honest, looking at the numbers, you would have to have such a high volume of clients to be able to make that business model work, which means super streamlined processes. You'd probably be using a lot of AI anyways, which takes out a lot of the human like connection there. And yeah, so like no, unless it were pegged with much higher value long-term sticky services.
Yeah. Kind of led
And
into why
sorry,
it is. No, go ahead.
you made me think of this too. It would definitely depend on the level of business and the industry they serve. That'd be huge for me. Like if it was A, businesses that I just was like, meh, not that interested in, or B, that same piece of like, if you're dealing with a lot of businesses that are doing under a certain revenue level, like you would have to have such high volume to make that work. Yeah.
Yeah, I should have set some stipulations on that one because it was kind of a leading one of like if it's just bookkeeping and accounting, so just bookkeeping and tax services, would you go that route? I'm going to go with a hard no for me personally. Just like you said, I just see it getting more and more commoditized. I do think there's a world where you could win at the bottom. Just you got to get. It's just going to be a way different model than probably the traditional
You're
model.
you're a tech provider at that point. Like
Yeah.
honestly, you're a tech service provider,
Yeah.
which is
So
fine.
we're all going to go with if we just kept it at that, not higher end services or the interpretation piece and human piece, probably leaning towards no at this point. So, Alex, I'm going to toss this one back to you. We're going to go med spa. Going into med spa, we'll just think like injectables, eyebrow stuff. This is obviously where Ian could probably list services better. We've got a couple of med spa people, but yeah, I'm going to toss you, Alex. What's your take on med spa?
If they charge highly and focus on client experience, then yes. Also assuming that the people that are in there can sell well.
Hmm.
Like those are the things that I would be looking for. So sales, retention, and average ticket value would be yes. Now I'm assuming we're not talking like massage therapy necessarily here.
No, we'd go. I mean, I guess it could be a part of a med spa, but no, we're going to go more traditional, like people going for Botox,
Like
injectables,
aesthetics, kind of
aesthetic
medical
stuff. Yeah.
aesthetics type
Yep.
stuff. Yeah, we've got clients that do that and kill it in that realm. Again, they charge well, they know how to sell, they know how to keep people, and they're good with humans. So yes, in those circumstances.
Cool. Ian?
Yep. Pretty much same. I mean, if they named it Brotox and just served dudes and made their faces smooth, I'd definitely be in. But I think for me, it's thinking of our clients that are killing it right now. It's exactly what Alex said. And also, a lot of them are getting into more medical realms. Now you have all the GLPs, you have all the different pieces there, and they're getting in more functional medicine, I'd say, if that makes sense. So it's like that blend of you see NPs, DOs, like different practitioners getting into that all in one almost hub for people. So it's blending the aesthetics with like the functional health. I think that's where I would go with it because you don't it's kind of like a one-stop shop and you have your person. And to me, that's very sticky because if you build that relationship, that person like knows you in and out. And then, oh yeah, but our specialist over here does this and this person does this. I personally love the concierge model with like, here's your main, but then you have that trust and oh, they can just handle it here. I think there's something so convenient and trusting about that when you find your people, especially with health because it's so personal. But yeah, med spa is wild. Every med spa we worked with, I've seen so far, they do not have a like marketing issue at all. Most of them have a wait list, like a pretty significant one. The hardest part too is usually the owner is the best practitioner in the smaller ones.
Yeah.
It's getting to it's if they have at least a couple other people there that can provide the same or like even 80% of like what the owner can do. I'm looking for that too because a lot of these businesses are very dependent on the owner doing the treatments too. So just I would look for that.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm in agreement. I would definitely consider it. I think unless culture somehow changes in the next 30 years in America, which I firmly feel like it's not going to, people are always going to be into how do I look better? How do I feel better? There's, very much against aging in America. I think other countries do a way better job of like gracefully aging in the sense of like accepting it. Whereas we're just like, no, you should be 25 forever and try to achieve that. So I definitely with that. And
I have a
Alex, agree.
follow-up. Can I ask what procedure would you guys choose if you could choose any aesthetic procedure?
I'd get my hair back if I could, or Botox, one of the two. go.
Isn't that like, that's a Turkish thing, right? Where there's a lot of people going to
Get the
Turkey,
transplants. Yeah, you could go get.
getting hair
So
stuff.
I could go do it. It's just takes a lot of time, and you got to have a lot of moolah as well.
Man, I'm probably gonna same thing. I'll just like prevent it from like leaving completely. How about
I'd
you,
pay for
Ian?
Alex to get a beard. That would be the one. Full
Well,
beard
I
Alex.
would
brought-
love to
I'm
see Alex
ideal
in a
too. I
beard.
just haven't tried. I
Yeah.
know. We should try sometime.
What, like, and what color would the beard be?
I know, that's why I'm
kind
thinking
of
I wanna
reddish, I
find-
think.
reddish, and that's the fun part. Like, what shade are we talking? I don't
Yeah,
know.
it's like nah, I don't know.
You got that
don't know.
like red, but it's kind of blonde sometimes. So it's like, what
Yeah, like I'm in
happens?
real life, I'm more blonde than red, but
Ooh.
people are like, "Oh, you're redhead." I'm like, "No, maybe I don't." I identify more with blonde, but
Well done, sir. Aside from the obvious BBL for me,
Well, yeah, of course.
I mean, that's just assumed.
Brazilian butt lift. Everyone needs
Yeah,
one.
duh.
Gotta get-
I mean, it prevents the flat butts. Probably, yeah.
I
I'm
had
getting
no
a
clue
little.
what that was. So thanks for defining it.
I thought I'd throw
got
in
you.
the definition.
We
Yeah,
got you.
I appreciate
yeah,
it.
yeah.
I mean, we have listeners that are going to do this.
Yeah,
need to know.
it's true.
Yeah. So for me, definitely, probably similar. I got this guy coming in here. Similar. If I tuck my head, I'm noticing it on recording. So it's nice to get some more hair up there.
Hey,
I already got, for me, it was functional. I got like eye surgery when I was younger, and that was pretty wild for me. That was kind of like, that felt sci-fi when I was younger. It's like, I can see now. This is amazing.
let's rapid fire through. I got a few more. Let's rapid fire.
Let's
Just
go.
short brief. So for time's sake,
Yes or no?
let's do home services. In this case, we're gonna do like power washing company. Going out
Yes.
to we were joking about it yesterday.
Yes.
Power washing company.
Yes.
Hard
I'm in.
yes.
Okay.
Hard yes.
Any things that you would need for that one?
Yeah, so you want at least ideally 2 crews, like 2 trucks to start. One could do it. The problem is seasonality, and I live in Utah, and so you can't power wash in the middle of the winter very well. So you'd have to pair it with something else like Christmas lights or plowing if we ever get snow here again. Where like I would just want to have something that balances out the seasonality so that I could keep guys on and trucks moving throughout the rest of the year. And the marketing on that, like, I like that one. So yeah, that's an instant yes.
Cool. Ian, yes.
Same. Yes. Hard
Yeah.
yes.
I'd be yes too. You can literally go around. You can get a power washer for pretty cheap and just start on your own if you really wanted to too. All right. Marketing agency. We'll do SEO lead gen agency.
SEO, ooh, AIEO,
There you go. AIO. Yeah. Combo. Yep.
yes.
Yeah. Cool.
Especially if doing it for an AI proof business, like something more medical or professional
Power
services related,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Not for bookkeeping services, apparently.
Ian, how about you?
Same. It would be dependent on who I'd serve, but yeah, if it was AI heavy into like bringing those systems in, sure.
Yeah. It's one I've obviously lived a lot. We lived a lot. I think it depends on what market you're going after, Alex, to your point of like, hey, can we go upstream versus downstream? I see a world where even ads are going to be commoditized in the sense of, we're already seeing the platforms try to take it over. Hey, use our 50 pre-made, variations and stuff like that. So I got 2 more, 2 that we see all the time. Physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy, in those realms, that kind of rehab specific business.
I do it again.
But yeah, would you do it again, Ian? That's actually, yeah, I want to kick off with that.
Not in New York State.
So a variable would be, what are the state
Yeah.
conditions, state
Yes.
guideline
Yeah,
conditions?
State conditions and the ability, how broad is your scope is big for me. Because if a state body or something else is really limiting you and or insurance is limiting you, what you can and can't do, that's usually a hard grip for me.
Yeah. Alex, what about you?
Only in mostly cash pay scenarios.
Same.
There are just way too many insurance variables happening right now, and reimbursements as they go down doesn't work. And so if they're making, like if it's PT, they got to be making like 175 a visit for sure before it even makes sense, because you just can't hire people right now unless you're able to pay well enough to beat a hospital system or something. So it'd have to be cash pay. They would have to have ideally some sort of recurring services as well afterwards, classes, fitness stuff, etc. Maybe even some massage therapy for the margins.
Yeah.
And they would have to have enough therapists and or locations to make it so that like coming in as an owner, I wouldn't have to treat.
Niche and specialized.
Yeah. Spot. You guys described everything. I would say actually made me think of if I were to do it, I'd try to combine with a med spa and do, there's like PT stuff after some of these
Yep.
treatment stuff that would make a lot
Yep.
of sense just because it's where people are going. All right, last one is go figure construction. Would you do, let's just do home, let's do residential construction, residential like home remodeling, not home remodeling, but home
General
construction.
contractor or subcontractor, like electrician, etc., or the person like building the house.
Let's do the building the house.
If there was capital that they could be like spec homing it and we were like a spec home builder, or like we had the money, we did the thing and then people bought it. From what I've seen, the margins there, and I just have a number of people, everyone that I work with that is a general contractor is like, how can I get to the point where I'm buying the land, I'm building the home, and then I'm selling it? Like every single one of them has moved that direction from a just profit standpoint. And so under those scenarios, yes, assuming they already have things like WIP reporting in place. They already have a really great Melissa in place. We joke about that. It's someone that's like your admin that does all the like billing and stuff, and that they have good in-house subcontractors that can like do things well at good margins. Like that for me would be a scenario where I'd be like, yeah, in a place where people will pay high money. Like you need to be making like nicer homes and not have to crank out 30 of them a year. Under that scenario, yes.
Okay. Ian.
Yeah, same. It's to me, it's what kind of jobs are they doing? How long do they take? Because the other thing I see is like, am I going to be waiting 6 to 12 months to get paid on something, or is it, you know, how much risk and liability am I taking up front with the construction company? So I find with certain commercial jobs, they might be a lot higher, but you have to get bonded a certain way. You have to just do you have to have other requirements and compliance. So for me, it tends to feel like a lot of moving parts just to get something that I could probably get another way. But if it was more of that piece where they just needed certain systems in place and I saw a gold mine of everything else was solid, yeah, same.
Cool. I'm going to go with, I'm actually going to lean towards no, and that the amount of overhead is just something that not really up my personality style. I think it's great. I think there's so many great, amazing construction companies. Just one for me where I'd be like, man, sitting on that much overhead all the time and having to have great team on that would be for me. Like, I don't know, but we'll wrap it there. This has been our longest episode so far. So I appreciate you guys going through that. Maybe we'll come up with some more unique industries. Those are some of the most common ones that we work with. I thought it was just interesting seeing inside of them, what's a hard no? Obviously bookkeeping, accounting strictly is a no from us. And then everything else kind of depends. So yeah, I hope this was enjoyable for those listening. Go get your collections, go collect the money. And two, I hope you enjoyed kind of the way that we think through some of these different industries and how we're looking at it financially. Any parting words, Alex, Ian?
I got nothing except for like go make some money and then go collect on it, and don't feel bad about collecting it after you've done all the work.
Yep.
Awesome.
Same. Go get that money.
Cool. As always, guys, hope you enjoyed this episode, and we'll catch you on the next one of Just Figuring It Out.